to the locker room. This is episode 3, and I'm your host, Dennis Pierre. Today I have with me a very special guest and longtime friend, Louis Cologne.
Thank you for having me, Dennis.
No problem. So me and Lou, we've known each other for, quite some time, over 30 years. 30-something years, actually.
Actually, 40.
40 years. Wow.
We're aging ourselves, but 40 years.
Yes, 4 decades. That is crazy. Yes. We actually grew up next to each other in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn.
Yep. We met each other because Dennis used to constantly throw his basketball against the wall. So I knew there was a kid next door with a basketball, and my dad would complain about, Dennis banging on the plaster because all the brownstones we lived in were all conjoined houses. And then we started playing outside since 5-6 years old. So 40 years later,
yes, still brothers.
We're still brothers, and we're sitting here talking to each other. And
that was some good times. Me doing that actually caused me to get out the house because Mom Dukes was not letting me out.
For sure.
Without that.
There were many days and nights and hangouts on the stoop. We used to hang out on our Brooklyn stoop regularly.
Yes. I miss those days.
Yeah, good times.
12 o'clock in the morning, school the next day, getting up the next day, going to school to train together, the whole shebang.
We had some real New York City, Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn adventures for sure.
Facts. We
could write a book one day.
We should. We got the TV show. Why not the book? Why not the book?
We can expand this to a cartoon series.
There you go. I like the way you're thinking.
Series.
I like the way you're thinking.
I like the multimedia over here.
I like the way you're thinking. Speaking of family, how's your family doing?
Everyone's good. Dad has been sick and diagnosed with Alzheimer's, so that's been pretty tough. My mom has been the matriarch, holding it down. But also, I'm a family of 5, where it's been me, my mom, my older sister who's 6 years older than me, and my younger brother who's 6 years younger. So I'm the middle child. But when I say immediate family, it's just us 5. Currently a dad with 1 son who's about to be 6. My wife, we've been together more than 10 years, and we've been married for going on 8 years now.
Congratulations.
So we an extended family now. We have a huge Puerto Rican family, you know how big that can be. And you grew up next to us, and you know that our house was a hub for everybody to come to.
Absolutely.
It was immediate family, extended family, family, and friends that became family were all part of my upbringing and being a part of our house, being a part of our meals, being a part of shared times. So you were a part of that for sure. So you have many chapters in that story as well.
Dope.
So there's some good, there's some bad right now, but we're holding each other down, being responsible for each other, and making sure we keep moving forward.
Super dope. That's a perfect segue. So today's episode, we are talking about the dynamics of growing up in a 2-family household versus a single-family household. As Louis explained to you, he grew up with his family of 5, brother, sister, both parents. I lived directly next door. My father owned a brownstone next to his father's brownstone, next to his family brownstone. But my father was in Queens. My mother was in Brooklyn, so I kind of grew up with her. So the dynamic was a little different. My extended family kind of went more into friends such as Louis. And I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, so I had an extended family that weren't necessarily related to me. So there was differences in growing up as much times as we shared together. It was definitely differences. But I kind of want to dive into that. I want to dive into, how it was growing up with brothers, sisters, everybody in the household, the arguments and all that stuff, because I didn't have that. So if you share a little bit more.
Well, arguments are easy because me and you have had arguments because we're like brothers, right?
Very true.
So that's easy to identify. I think the thing for me to look in hindsight is to say, wow, I grew up in this really intimate family of 5 that had this bigger extended family of aunts, uncles, cousins, friends, and everybody. And one of my biggest takeaways is that we grew up in Bed-Stuy, pretty well known for being rough. And at the time, in the 90s when we grew up, it was known for retention back to prison, right? Mm-hmm. Like it was a top 3 location in all the nation of the United States of returning back once you came out. Mm-hmm. So being around that, we grew up where we grew up was 3 blocks away from Marcy Projects, which, is infamous as well for its own right. Even with all of that surrounding us, I never really felt that because we were protected in the house.
Right.
We were protected by family that told us not to be in the street, told us to be home. There was food on the table. There was food in the refrigerator. There was entertainment at home. There was hosting at home. My parents were really, really big on hosting and being that epicenter for family and friends. Like everyone's known us for the block party that we throw, And because of that, I think I was a bit insulated from the rest of the world outside. So I didn't realize that till much later, because you just live day to day and you take it for granted, right? So, later.
We were young too. On top of that,
we were young. We didn't realize how crazy the streets were, but we also weren't a part of that life. And I think there was a reason for that. We had a choice, and we knew the choice and the difference between that life and other lives. We had a friend that we grew up with that lived across the street, got shot in a dice game, killed, right? You and I really don't touch on that, but that was facts. That's what happened. But at the same time, we made different choices. And I think that is supported by the infrastructure that my family, and my parents specifically, gave to us and our extended family. We had ownership of our responsibility, and we had a lot of people that within the neighborhood, because going back even a little further in the story, my mom grew up across the street on Nostrand Avenue, and when my grandparents came with 8 kids, including my mom, they bought the house on Nostrand Avenue, right? And when my sister was born, then I was born. When I was 5 is when we moved to Hart Street, right? And then grew up in Bed-Stuy for the rest of the time. But my family has been in Bed-Stuy for over 75 plus years.
Yes, I've been, for a long time.
Yeah, so having that legacy and having that extension of family that, not everybody lived in Nostrand Ave or Hart Street, but some live on DeKalb and some live in, in proximity of 3 or 4 blocks. And there were, not for nothing, we know other families and Caribbean families in general, whether Jamaican, Haitian, and other families, that they were big families that grew up on our block and grew up close to us. And, not for nothing, I think that's part of what we see gentrification today and people wanting to come to Bed-Stuy is because of these families that actually supported each other.
Right.
No matter the income level, they all support each other. They all looked out for each other. There's been many times that people knocked on my parents' door because, you got to move the car to the other side of the street. Hey, you got to move your dad's car, right? So little things like that make a community. They make it safe. They make you responsible for other people as well as people responsible for you. So I grew up luckily around that, and here today with you because we get to look back and talk about it.
I am lucky that I grew up next to you because my life was completely different. Like you speak about the retention in jails. As you know, all my brothers was in jail. I don't know if you remember a time where 2 of my brothers was home out of jail at the same time. Like it was constantly, 1 would go out, 2 would go out, 2 would go in, 3. It was just a constant thing with that.
I remember your brother being a bodybuilding champion.
Oh,
in
yes.
jail. I remember that.
Yes.
He was huge.
Yes.
Did that play an influence on you being
absolutely, honestly,
fit in Brooklyn Fitness?
Absolutely. I talked about, I believe in episode 1, some of the things that I got from them, good or bad. So they worked out all the time. They was in jail. It actually taught me how to work out in non-space. They also taught me how to make up my bed and clean the house. Because I realized in jail you had to do that or else you would get in trouble. So a lot of that stuff came from them. So yes, they did have an influence. I don't know if that's why I started Brooklyn Fitness, right, but I definitely take some things away from as far as staying healthy and staying in shape and working out consistently. So yeah, for sure. Mine's is interesting because as you know, my mom's, I live with my mom's. But my father lived in Queens. He owned the brownstone. So it wasn't like he was out of my life, but he wasn't really in my life. Like he would be there on the weekends or every other week to collect rent and, do whatever he had to do. And I saw him, we talked, but it wasn't like he was raising me. It wasn't like I grew up. Your pops became my pops. And we used to always have this saying, how's it hanging? And he was always tell me long and strong. That's my guy. And y'all took me in. So when you talk about the dinners, you talk about the families, a lot of times eating dinner was at your house. Yeah. A lot of times doing homework was at your house. A lot of times activities, if I wasn't at the Kingdom Hall, I was a Jehovah's Witness, like I said, a few times growing up, or I didn't have games, I was at your house. And because of that, I truly believe that's the reason why I'm alive and or not in jail. Because, as you know, it was so much stuff to get into. And 100%. with a mother who's not home because she has to work and do what she needs to do, and a pops doesn't live with me, I had all the free time in the world. All my brothers is incarcerated or doing whatever they were doing. So your household provided a safe haven. And again, your father could cook his behind off. I love his cooking. For me as I grew up. So I'm super, super appreciative. But it's just so interesting that living so close together, how different the families were, completely, for such a long time.
I think that dynamic of being close to somebody but being so different, it actually falls into like parents as well. My parents are very different. Mm-hmm. My dad was very by the book. Wake up at 6 a.m. He was retired Air Force. He was in the New York Fire Department, retired from the New York Fire Department, then became a fire inspector. Very straight-laced, by-the-book guy that you didn't want to mess around with, right? My mom was very different. She was, again, the matriarch of the fam, but, very different. They have that polarization between them actually made me who I am, and I think influenced you and probably a lot of other people.
It definitely did.
With my mom with her fashion side and my dad with his strictness. And they're not limited to those structures, but at the same time, part of what I took away from them is some of those things. And I think you saw it and you were around it through our adolescent years. And, I do think it influenced us for sure.
For sure.
And not just me, us. And I could say that in hindsight now because that was the reality, right? Like that's what it was. So, even my other cousin Chico grew up without his dad as well. But he was in my house all the time with me, you, and him, right?
Yes.
So, family is given to you, but then also there's a chosen family as well. So you were part of our chosen family, and as my dad, is going through Alzheimer's and not remembering a lot of things and getting little stories mixed up sometimes, or more often now, he does remember you all the time.
Yeah, I saw him, I think last month at the DMV. Yeah, by the house. I've noticed something. Even though I grew up with my mom's, I have a Caribbean background. My father's from Grenada. But I also noticed, and especially being in New York City, it's a melting pot. There's so many different cultures. I noticed that a lot of people who are not U.S. born or U.S., the whole entire family, are more together. So Caribbean, Puerto Rican, Caribbean, Dominican, West Indian. What is it about the culture that keeps y'all together, keeps y'all so united?
I don't know if you could chalk it up to tradition or I don't know the exact answer, but I know what you're saying and identifying is 100% real. That necessity for family, togetherness. I don't know if it's due to finance, due to being immigrants, that you find your family and you bring them together because you don't have opportunity outside of that. I don't know if it's that. But it's something that I would say I identified a long time ago, and you see it as well. It's something that makes us stronger, and it's something that I actually take a lot of pride in to bring into my family to today. How can we host? How can we pass our tradition down? How can we do New Year's? How can we have the barbecue? How can we be the safe place, right? How can we bring kids together, parents and kids together? That's the way we were, right? Like some cousins and family you didn't see but once, twice a year. But when you all hung out for whatever party at my parents' house, that was fun, that was memorable, that was exciting.
Right.
The food was bountiful, right? The party was great. There were beers everywhere. There was food everywhere. Salsa music was playing. Like all those little things were kind of like that. Those spices in the mixture of like what made us. So I don't know exactly, to go back to your question, why or where that comes from. I think there might be a bunch of circumstances why Caribbean culture, as they immigrated here, leaned more into that, or maybe it was just a natural big family inclusiveness that extended as they came here. But I do wish and hope that continues, because I think that thread really ties us back to where we came from and where we're going next.
Very, very, very true. I would agree with a lot of those points. In particular, as growing up, like I said, more of on the American side, most of my American friends never really saw two parents in their household. They may have known both parents, but it just wasn't a thing. I would even say in American Black households, getting married is not even looked at as a high priority. I've known people who've been together for 20 plus years, and they just together. Like, they're not hopping the broom, they're not trying to get married. It's not even a thought process. So when I looked at that, even my pops, my Caribbean side, like my pops, he's been married 3 times. Like he that's one of the things that I've noticed with people who migrated, or families who migrated here, versus communities or families that were brought up in the States. It's been a huge difference, which I'm assuming this is why you wanted a family yourself. Me, I actually never ever thought about having a family until everybody in the group had families. It was like, wait a second, like I'm 40 something, like I'm not even thinking about it yet. And that's another reason why I wanted you on the show, is because I noticed in our chat group, everybody who's in the chat who is married grew up with their parents. Right. Everybody who's not married grew up in a single family household. And it was like, is that something that I was thinking to myself, is this something that you see and that's what you inspire to be? You have the lessons, you have the instructions, you know where to go, versus the opposite side, which is kind of just live your life and have fun. Try not to have too many babies. And if you have you have too many babies, hopefully you have enough money to support them. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that dynamic is very interesting, but I love it though. I love it. Definitely gave me inspiration myself.
I mean, but I see what you're saying too. I mean, I think there's a unique dichotomy of folks that grew up with their family in 2-parent household. Do they want to replicate that because it was good, or do they want to replicate that because they want to do better? And then some people might not know on the other side that what it could be, right? Or maybe don't see that as an opportunity for themselves. So I can see that a lot of parts. I can see both. I'm armchair psychologist right now, but I think getting down to dialing into us, I think having the conversations and being in the locker room to be able to have these conversations, we may not have the exact answer, but at least we're peeling the onion a bit to find out what made us and who and what are the things that made us, and how do we pass that forward? Because that's where I think I'm at in my life now, is how do I do better for my little guy? And my little guy is Louis Colon IV. So not only am I passing him a legacy of teaching, passing him the name. So, he's the fourth of us, and then my wife also comes from a 2-parent household as well, with 2 siblings. When we got together, that was a thing that we both identified really quickly. Wow, Puerto Rican families from New York with 2 parents, a brother and a sister. What? This is kind of wild, right? Another thing that was interesting, her parents are exactly 10 years apart, and me and my wife are 10 years apart. So there's a lot of parallels.
I always got to give you props on that, brother. I always got to give you props on that. I love that.
That was a good move. I mean, but if you do the math and the science is real, like, women mature faster than men. So it just took me longer to want to settle down, right?
That's it.
But also, I think that also chalks up to a lot of things that me and you share and inspire each other over the many years is just being entrepreneurs. I think I took my 20s to 30s looking and learning and trying to be this entrepreneur that hopefully evolves into today. And then you took that as well. And we both kind of learned and bounced from each other as far as being an entrepreneur and having that support system to be able to do that.
So I want to get juicy. Pause. Talked about the good times. Now, like I said, unfortunately, I wasn't necessarily raised with my family, so I didn't have the arguments and the fights. What was some of the challenges growing up in a big family such as yours?
I think it's there was a delta of the 6 years between my sister and I, and then my brother and I. So I think there's just a maturation that's different. I think as a middle child, we're notoriously known for like not being the baby and not being the firstborn. So I think I have a different POV on that. But at the same time, there is differences growing up, right? Like there is petty little stuff. I think right now, the relationship I have with my sister, the relationship I have with my brother, I wouldn't change it for the world. No matter what arguments and bickering we had as kids, we were a family. We never put hands on each other. We never like cursed each other out or did anything that really just, violates each other. My parents would never allow that, number one. Two, we do love and care for each other. And I think now as we've all matured and become adults, I think that bond that we have is even stronger. And luckily, they support me, I support them, and we're all there for each other. And we're all there now for that turning of the tide, which is now, how do we take care of our parents? How do we support my mom that's trying to support my dad? How do we do that? How do we now take the responsibilities and the reins that they have maintained as far as being the pinnacle and the place for the family to congregate? How do we do that for them? So, that's flipping your question a bit about the juicy, petty stuff. There was nothing really that took us to a place where we were really mad or hated each other. That was never the case.
Right.
Or we were bickering and petty with each other, for sure. But I think as adults too, I think we've matured to a different place where I genuinely love and respect my siblings.
Super dope. Mine was the complete opposite. I had gunfights with my brothers.
Yeah.
Like literally, like we both had guns at each other. Nobody pulled the trigger, but bad situations. Me growing up the youngest of 7, I would say the benefits, because I don't want to make it sound all bad. I think the benefits was it kind of sped up my maturity levels and all the things I had to learn how to do. So I learned how to cook at 12. I remember the first time I made fried chicken. I didn't realize you had to put flour on the chicken or seasoning on the chicken. But it was done, and my mom's made me eat it because I cooked it. But like I said, I had to I knew it was just me. So I kind of had to navigate, solo. So a lot of things kind of fast forwarded. We're only a year apart, but again, you basically took on the role of my brother. So me and you was all over places that we probably should not have been. At times we probably should not have been doing things that we probably shouldn't have been doing.
That's for another episode.
Yeah, nothing crazy. I mean, like you said earlier, in the 90s, it was ridiculously dangerous. Just walking by Marcy, things could happen. And we were playing sports in there, but that was just our norm. It just was what it was. So even though I would have loved to have a bigger family, and I can say a bigger family, a family that was more united, because of that, again, it gave me my drive to do everything that I needed to do. When you don't have that security blanket, it forces you to build a house, to build security, to build things around you, to protect you in that kind of way. So, like I said, even though I wish they were around a little bit more, you know what? Now I'm thinking about it, I don't know. Because I might have been, I don't know. I might have been in some things that I probably shouldn't have been into. I might have had the courage to step to some people that I probably shouldn't have if my brothers were around, because I would think that they had their backing. So I don't know. Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, and I also think that it goes back to the simple thing of nature versus nurture, right? You nurtured yourself to be a better person and to not be not go down that wrong path.
Mm-hmm.
You know, your surroundings were the surroundings. I mean, there's nothing you could do about that, right?
Very true. Very true.
But we are blessed, right? We're healthy. We're still stand-up men that are here today on the locker room together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talking. So a lot to be thankful for, but a lot to reflect on as well.
You spoke about the family. Did you have any mentors growing up outside of your family, or was your family kind of?
So, mentors, as far as role models, I could say yes, about, how to be a good person, for sure. Mentors as far as like what I've done in sneakers and fashion, what I've done in business and retail, what I've done in branding, never had that. We just didn't have anybody to lean on that had insight and input for us while we were trying to make that next step. Published the first magazine. I didn't know any publishers. When I had exclusive, opened up the first women's sneaker store. No one else I've known opened up the first women's sneaker store, right?
Mott Street, right?
On Mott Street,
Yeah, Mott Street,
in Soho. So, done some really things I'm super proud of. Wish I had a mentor, but at the same time, we're dealt the cards, right? So, taking a lot of those learnings into what today is looking like with Bodega and the new dispensary and the new brand, taking a lot of those learnings, trying to apply them to now and being better now, and looking at the past, but not being anxious or upset about past and those losses and those lumps we had to take, but taking the good learnings. And now I can honestly say, in business and entrepreneurial and every other venture, like, we got our doctrine in this now. So
For sure.
now, like, I could open up a store tomorrow, just give me the budget.
For sure.
So now I learn from, my corporate years on the fashion side as well. How do I bring that over here, those disciplines, those learnings, from finance to people to auditing? How do I bring that all in today? So, I think looking back is great, and how we're applying it today is even better.
Right. Yeah, my mentors, you actually probably know most of my mentors. I don't know if the term, I wasn't using mentors back then, and it wasn't OGs, but a lot of guys I looked up to and a lot of the guys I inspired to, unfortunately, they weren't necessarily legal in the activities that they did, but they taught me a lot of dope moral lessons as far as like how to move and how to kind of do some things. I'm not going to take away from my father. He probably was the first one that gave me the entrepreneur spirit, because I've never seen him work for anybody. He doesn't come from the greatest education, the background, but he worked his behind off and he did some amazing things coming from where he came from. Dad skills, probably not the best, but he knew how to make money. He knew how to set up a business. And like I said, we got guys from Custom Cuts. I'm not going to name no names, but you know who I'm talking about. These guys show me some things. I will say, your family definitely inspired me to want to stay on the right track, because this is like the first family in the neighborhood of people that I was around that I saw actually be successful. You actually was the reason why I went to college, and started going to college, and even thought about going to college. And as you mentioned earlier, I want to keep these discussions going to improve it, and see how we can change some things in the community, or highlight families like yourself, so that people have the inspiration to kind of change the narrative.
Yeah, I don't believe that you or I are anomalies. I think there's a lot of parallels to a lot of the stories from young men, young women growing up in New York. So I think that we're a reflection of a lot of people that did a lot of good work. And like you said, people that inspired us to try to do better. I think going back to what I mentioned before, there's gentrification, and people are like, wait a minute, everybody's getting pushed out. And I'm like, let's look at the root of that. I mean, people want to be here because of what was built. So let's pay homage to that. Let's give props to that, right? So, I think one person I always love to think about, somebody like Spike Lee, that always gives props to Brooklyn. Always gives props to growing up.
I'm right around the corner from the guy.
Always gives props to the multicultural diversity that he grew around. He grew up around, from hearing his story, brothers that were Puerto Rican, brothers that were Caribbean, and et cetera, et cetera. So that's, a reflection of us too, right?
Right.
I really don't see, obviously I'm Puerto Rican and we grew up around Jamaican families and Haitian families and every other one, Trinidadian and everything, right? I really don't see the difference. Like, yeah, there's some salsa music there. It's a little,
same drums.
It's all the same drums. It all comes from the same place. We all come from the same place. So when people nowadays want to make that differentiation, I just honestly don't see it.
Gotcha.
Like, I just don't see it. You've been to PR
several times,
right?
Several times. Yeah.
I mean, like, we all should be enjoying this together. So,
right.
So I don't see that division. I see as, honestly, we've been united since
for a while,
40 years now.
Yeah,
so
for a while. Yeah, for a while.
There's nothing really different on my table that wasn't available on my family's table that wasn't available for you.
Right.
Circle back to the whole thing, right?
So to close it out, some of y'all may know I am the owner of Brooklyn Fitness. If y'all want to check that out, it's Brooklyn Fitness on all player handles. Do you want to shout out the bodega? You spoke about it briefly.
Yeah, so Bodega NYC coming to Park Slope, Brooklyn, 321 4th Avenue. We're a brand, we are a dispensary, we're also opening up a cafe, really differentiating the cannabis space. We're a legal, licensed dispensary, partnering with my brother-in-law, and my sister is the interior designer. My brother's doing the photography for us. So you can still see how this family focus continues through. And part of what we're going to do and what we will do to take Bodega to the next level is really for that next generation, for my son, my nephews, my nieces, and our family. So that's the goal. And we just got to do the work to make it happen.
That's what's up. Well, I appreciate you joining us on The Locker Room. My man, we'll see you next week for episode 4. Peace.